take projection.
It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And we've got a lot of stuff to cover this week in the world of wrestling. We're going to go ahead and start off with some stuff that Patrick and I witnessed live over the weekend. We went to GCW Mastermind at the VBC in Huntsville, Alabama on Saturday, and it was another great show. We saw them last time in mid-January over there, and had a good card this week. This month, and I'm hoping they do this a little more regularly. I kind of figured this time they did it because it was Top Guy weekend, but maybe they'll keep it up. It had a lot of talent that they brought in from New South Pro Wrestling as well. First match of the night was Cole Radrick, Ratty Daddy, versus Hunter Drake, hometown boy Hunter Drake. I didn't realize he was from Huntsville. I thought he was from somewhere else.
I think actually is he from Scottsboro?
Okay, well they say
from Scottsboro.
It's like when you're from somewhere around.
Yeah.
If you're in Florence, he still say you're from Muscle Shoals,
Something
even though
like that.
Scottsboro's a little far.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, hometown boy who. There's been a lot of hype around him lately. He put on a good match with Cole Radrick to start off the night. I've got some clips of almost all of these. I put my phone down some. I tried to not be the guy holding my phone the whole night. But I did want to get some stuff that we could put on our social media. Next match was Alec Price defeated Teriyaki. That was a good match as well. And then I got my first Effie match.
The first
person.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rena, I can never remember if it's
Yamashita, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that was entertaining.
Everyone's first Effie experience is something else.
Good stuff.
He is he is unlike anybody else in wrestling right now. And one of our buddies who's never watched wrestling before, we brought him to the show, and Effie was by far his favorite.
Really?
He was laughing his ass off. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Because he understands that wrestling is an art. It's live theater. There's a showmanship aspect that Effie has.
Yeah.
That a lot of these other guys are don't really have. No knock on any of these other dudes, but like Effie's not doing 450s and springboards. And they do something as simple as a comedic, everyone grabs everybody's crotches and they get a holy shit chant. And then and the crowd is on fire.
Rena bit him in his crotch.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
And the best part of Effie, is when he got her in the corner, he said, "You want pride, Effie, bitch?" And then he just started humping her in the face. That's what she bit him in the dick. Yeah. It's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. I saw him again on Sunday. We'll get to that one in a second. The next one was the 6-man tag match, and that one had Nick Gage, who we didn't actually get to see wrestle last time he was in town. He just came out and did the salute to Jay Briscoe. But so he got to wrestle, and then Action Mike Jackson walked the top ropes like he usually does, but then also went through a table. And everybody was chanting, "Please don't die. Please don't die."
I mean, Mike Jackson, I believe, is 73 years old.
Yeah.
72. So I was trying to explain to people, like, watching Mike Jackson wrestle would be like watching a pitcher who, like, pitched against Babe Ruth. It's just like you're that connected through wrestling history watching one of his matches.
Yeah.
And he gave it us all, too. Like he said, go to the table. Like, he was down.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, Jordan Oliver helped walk him around from one corner to the next. And then bam.
The best tan in all of pro wrestling. Mike Jackson.
Mike Jackson.
Comes from a bottle, I'm sure. But the best one.
So next up, Sawyer Wreck defeat John Wayne Murdoch. She was in the main event the next night, which was absolutely fucking nuts. You've got to go watch that one.
She's a wild one.
Yeah. Lots of cheese graters and things involved in that one. The 8-man tag match was a lot of fun too. Team New South was Brandon Williams, Braden Toon, Cabana Man Dan, and Donnie Primetime defeated Team GCW. This is probably about the time the crowd got a few beers in them, got a little hype.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of good stuff happening there. And then Blake Christian retain the GCW World Title, defeating Adam Priest, hometown boy, Roll Tide. I say hometown; he's not from Huntsville, but he did give us a Roll Tide. So.
Mr. Roll Tide, Adam Priest.
Yeah, not mad at that. That was a good match. Good showing from Adam against Blake. And then last was Joey Janela defeated Tank. Just blood everywhere.
A hardcore match. Yeah. Tank, I did not realize. And, Joey gave the little, the post-match speech kind of thanking Tank. Didn't know Tank was part of NWA Wildside, which is where, like, AJ Styles came out of there. And, like, that was, when he talked about, like, tape trading, that was a prime tape trading spot.
Yeah.
Or a promotion back in that day. So, yeah, it's wild, man.
He put Slam Joey on top of a damn shopping cart.
Yeah. Or a buggy.
Yeah.
Buggy down here.
It's a buggy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That was a good show. Several hundred people there. I was probably, I'm guessing, maybe, you think it was more or the same as, I thought it was more than last time.
They definitely had more snacks and more...
more snacks and more booze.
More booze, more bartenders.
Yeah.
Who were probably women in their mid-50s that were like, what the fuck is going on?
What are we doing here?
What is this?
Yeah, because last time, there were a lot of chairs that were bought up. That people just weren't sitting there. I get maybe they were standing, but like pretty much all the chairs were filled this time. There was a lot of people just standing around like us. We got in what I'm going to call our spot.
Yeah.
Moving forward, they moved the hard camera.
Yeah.
But we were still in the spot where we were last.
We're still in the spot. Yeah. So I guess Huntsville. Yeah. Hopefully it continues to be a spot for GCW.
Yeah, I'd love to see him bring Manser.
We still have yet.
We didn't get him.
Our favorite old Manser has not been here in Huntsville yet.
Yeah, good show, man. Good show from the New South folks too, man. They go up against the GCW folks pretty well. A lot of talent there. So speaking of them, Sunday night it was an actual GCW versus New South show over in Florence at the Singing River Brewery. Started off Brogan Finlay versus Jack Cartwheel. Dude is athletic as hell. He was in I think he was an 8-man tag. I didn't read his name off. He was in the 8-man tag the night before at GCW.
Yeah.
Super talented. And then Cole Radrick again versus Tyler Franks, Ratty Daddy. A lot of Ratty Daddy fans over in Florence.
Ratty Daddy is over.
Yeah. He is over as hell.
He is over like Rover. People love him.
Yeah. Yeah, good show, man. That was fun. Smaller crowd over there, but they were still into it. And then Alec Price came out and just belittled everybody in a match versus Hunter Drake. Yeah, that dude yells at the crowd more than he wrestles, probably.
He hammed it up a lot for the Sunday show I was watching. I was still watching this on Fight TV. This was before Forbidden Door kicked off. Yeah. So I was watching this. Healing it up. He said, "Go LSU." And Dave Prazak made just a funny, like, oh, I think it was Carmen Michaels, like, oh, he's doing his homework.
Yeah, I wondered why he said that. I was like, what the fuck is he doing?
It's just,
hold on a minute. I fucked up, hit the back button on the browser here. Okay. And then next up was Team GCW versus Team New South. So GCW, I keep touching shit I'm not supposed to touch. The one called Manders, Bobby Flacco, Jimmy Lloyd, and Jordan Oliver versus Donnie Primetime, Rolando Perez, Stunt Marshall, and Walker 13. That was a lot of fun because at one point Rolando was in the ring with Manders.
Yeah.
So you got a little short dude. I don't know how tall Rolando is, but he is a short fella.
He's short.
Versus a very large man in Manders.
I almost tweeted this out, but it was like, if you put the 4 guys on Team New South in a car, you would be like, what the fuck are these 4 people doing? Walker 13 looked like the Terrifier.
Yeah.
And then Donnie Primetime and what was it, Stunt Marshall with just crazy facial hair. And then Rolando was there. It's just been like the only way these
with his
two
mullet and bow tie with shirtless bow tie.
Yeah, the only way those 4 guys could be there is if they were pro wrestlers. It's the only way that those guys make sense together.
We may need to revisit your story that you told on an earlier podcast at some point down the line.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. Next was Dylan McQueen versus Effie. Did we see Dylan in January?
I don't know. We didn't.
Okay, because that dude's good.
Yeah. He is. He's one of the dudes who is on the come up quite a bit.
Yeah.
From around this area.
He looks the part.
Yeah.
Wrestles the part. put on a good show with Effie. Effie was over in Florence too.
Effie's over everywhere.
Yeah, I love it. Then the six man tag match, John Wayne Murdoch and Los Macizos. I don't know how to say that.
I think that's it.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Versus Akudo Death Society and Braden Toon. That one was fun as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where I stopped watching. I have to go back and watch
this one was fun as shit.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd seen Braden. Well, Braden was there. Was he there? Did I say if he was there?
He was there.
He stood
Saturday.
out this night, though, to me.
Yeah.
Dude, he's not a small fella, but he's very much an athlete.
He reminds me of the very, very young Kevin Owens.
Yeah, okay.
When Kevin Owens was like, when he had the singlet, and he was like, I don't know, 23, 24. That's who, every time I watch Braden, I'm like, that's who he's giving me shades of that.
Okay.
So, if he turns into full-fledged Kevin Owens, that man will have a very successful career.
Yeah.
Very successful bank account as well. So we'll see what happens.
Wouldn't be mad at
But
it.
yeah, he does stay. You're right. He does stand out.
Yeah, this match was, I think, where it really popped off for me. Well, I'll say that, but Effie and Dylan was really good before that. And then Blake Christian defended his title against Brandon Williams. Solid showing there from Brandon. Back and forth. Blake hit him with his own chain at one point. And then it got wild as shit in the main event. Rina Yamashita and Sawyer Wreck versus Kenzie Page and Kylie Alexa.
Yeah, this is the one everyone has told me to go back to and watch.
Yeah.
So this is on my to-do list very soon, probably over the July 4th holiday. And if you want to watch any of this stuff, Fight Plus, $7.99 a month. You can go back and watch the replays.
Yeah.
It's well worth it.
Yeah. And I've got a couple of clips from both nights on our TikTok and Instagram pages. Just look up Alabama Slam Pod on either social media. Yeah, I mean, granted, like I said, I was trying not to be the guy standing there with a camera phone the whole time. So it's nothing fancy, but for a mere $8, you can go back and watch the whole. It's worth $8 to watch the main event.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get the Fight Plus is so much more than GCW and New South, like Wrestling Revolver, which we've talked about a little bit, continues to just be outstanding week in and week out. They're on there as well. I mean, there's kickboxing, there's boxing, MMA, all kinds of stuff on there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's get on into Forbidden Door Sunday night. I haven't been able to watch the whole thing because I was in the Shoals when it started, and by the time I got home, it was, I think Ospreay and Kenny Omega were on, and I was wore out at that point and wasn't going to try to watch it. So I have since watched Kenny and Ospreay, but let's save that one for a little bit. What besides that one, what was your other favorite for the night?
So first off, Forbidden Door, I think you would have to say unequivocally better this year than last year. And
Really?
last year was awesome.
I thought last year was the shit. Yeah,
And this year was awesome as well. I mean, MJF Tanahashi was great for what it was. MJF playing the chicken shit heel, still coming out, retaining the victory. That was my first look at Sonata. I thought he was impressive against Jack Perry. I need to see more of him. Obviously, Jack Perry turns heel at the end of this, which maybe we'll get into this podcast, and if not, we'll circle around to it for sure next week. The four-way for the international title: Shibata, Garcia, Zack Sabre Jr., and who, if you ended the year now, and like you know how they do the PWI 500, I don't know how Orange Cassidy is outside the top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, that man, the run that he has been on this year, just everything he's done has just been fantastic.
Yeah, I sent you a clip yesterday of Danielson. I get was it maybe it was the Forbidden Door interview.
I think it was a post of Forbidden Door. Yeah, somebody asked him.
Yeah, somebody was asking him about Cassidy, and he was like, "Man, I was a doubter at first, but he was like, I paid attention to this guy the last few months, and he's like, there's nobody out there working harder than Orange Cassidy."
Like, if at this point, if you're still not a fan of Orange Cassidy,
You've got your mind made up about it.
yeah, you're just not a fan of like modern day wrestling, which is fine. There's tons of classic wrestling you can watch. But like, if you're somebody that watches like Orange Cassidy, or you watch Omega and Ospreay, and you're like, oh, that stuff just is not for me. You don't like modern wrestling, which is fine. But my suggestion to you, and to a lot of other people, would just be, please shut the fuck up and go on down the road with it. I'm not trying to hear this shit. Orange Cassidy is absolutely incredible. Omega and Ospreay, which we'll get into, literally had one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. Like the brutality, the savagery, the athleticism, the explosiveness, like it's all at a world-class level. And I just get so tired, and I know I'm on a tangent here, and I apologize. I get so tired of like these fucking people who are like, oh, well, they don't have the psychology right. They don't sell them as blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Please just shut up. There's so much classic wrestling you can watch. Just go do that. Let us enjoy this. Like, wrestling is an art form like anything else, right? It evolves over time, okay? Saying that, like, you don't like this current brand of wrestling because of XYZ or blah, 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 whatever, is a little bit like saying, like, oh, I preferred my movies when the actors didn't talk. Right? It's that kind of, to me, it's that level of just, like, stupidity. And that's, you can have that opinion, I guess, if you want to. It's a dumb opinion. And like I said, just shut up about it. We don't want to hear it at this point. Like, let the rest of us enjoy it. The great thing about wrestling right now is that it's better than it's ever been, because across the board, it is great for whatever you want. If you want deathmatch wrestling, you can go to GCW, right? If you want sort of over-the-top characters, right? Fucking Effie. That's your dude.
Love it.
Right? You love it. If you want 5-star, 6-star, 7-star matches, Omega and Ospreay, Orange Cassidy, Bryan Danielson, Okada.
I mean, look, last year, Cassidy and Ospreay put on my favorite match of the year.
If you want story, Roman Reigns and the Usos are giving you that. Right? Like, wrestling fans are so spoiled. Things are so good right now. It's unbelievable the amount of talent. And it irritates the shit out of me when people point to like something in the 80s or the 70s and be like, this is the apex of pro wrestling. It's like, have you ever really like gone back and watched some of the old school stuff? Like, look, I love old school wrestling, but like most of the old school like NWA you would watch would just be like Ric Flair beating up a jobber, you know what I mean? And doing a promo, because it wasn't a television product back then. Right. It was to get you to go to the arena to buy a ticket to go to the show. Like, the fact that you can turn on Monday Night Raw and see a guy like Carmelo Hayes, who looks like he's going to be the fucking biggest star in wrestling in about 3 years. He's got that level of star power. Yeah. Just wrestle Finn Balor for free for 10 minutes is absurd.
Yeah, and we're not going to probably touch on SmackDown or Raw very much at all this week, but like, same thing, LA Knight versus Rey Mysterio on Friday night.
Like, it's insane. It's wild.
We've talked about the last few weeks, the popularity of LA Knight, but just, they're like, hey, let's run this and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, I love the Attitude Era too. Don't get me wrong, but like, there's a lot of shitty matches in the Attitude Era. Like, people look back on it now with the rose-colored glasses and like, go back and actually watch some of the stuff. Some of it's kind of shitty. The fact that like WWE now is like I said, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, Jimmy Uso, Kevin Owens, Gunther, the other fucking Imperium dudes that I can never pronounce their damn name. And then you go to AEW.
The one with the neck.
The one with the neck. And then you go
the Baldy and the one with the neck, right?
And then you go to AEW and like, people like the Lucha Brothers haven't even been on AEW in a couple weeks. And you watch one of their matches and it's just like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And it's routine at this point. So anyways, Walter, I don't know what we're talking about, but this whole weekend I would see. And what did it was I went on cagematch.com, which I shouldn't have done. I'm working myself into a shoot here because I knew what this shit was going to be. And I'm just reading the like Omega Ospreay reviews. And there's like 3 out of 10. And I'm like, did we fucking watch the same thing? Are you that like stupid? Like, I don't understand how you can't watch that. Same with like Orange Cassidy. There are some people that just like don't like him.
That's a you know what Pitchfork is?
Yeah.
That's a fucking pitchforker, probably.
Yeah.
Putting a 3 out of 10 on Omega and
look,
Ospreay.
As much as I love Jim Cornette, okay, anybody who is a hardcore Jim Cornette stan, I would just urge you to go on the network and watch some of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, okay, when Jim Cornette had total control, and tell me if you think that that's a better product than the wrestling that's being turned out today. And if you do, then that just tells me that you like your wrestling a certain type of way, and you are stuck in your ways, and you're never going to see the light.
Yeah,
and that's okay. But like I said, please just shut the fuck up and go on down the road.
So you said, I don't even know where I started. You started just on Cassidy when you were talking about the 4-way match.
Oh yeah, Cassidy's great. Yeah. Cassidy's great.
So you went through the Jungle Boy and MJF, and then
So yeah, we'll go back to the 4-way. Cassidy's fantastic. Shibata is awesome. Zack Sabre Jr. just absolutely incredible. His chain wrestling. Daniel Garcia, his hip dance.
Who did he stand on last night?
Keith Lee.
Keith Lee.
It's out of this world how entertaining that guy is. This is the best thing for him too, because we knew that he could wrestle.
Yeah.
So now getting to see some of his personality come out, and like the AEW Fight Forever video game just came out, I guarantee you the Daniel Garcia hip dance will be assigned to every single character in that game, and there'll be gifs of Chris Jericho's video game character doing it. Kenny Omega, like, you know how like when you played Halo and you could kill somebody and you could just like fucking squat down and put your nuts on their face? That's what this is going to be.
So there was somebody already tweeting out just fucking memes today, and I don't know if they were ones that they made or if they were actually from the game, but it was somebody playing Eddie Kingston, like just building that up. And it was like, they made him do this, they made him do that, and then they were like, and then they made him take a selfie with Sammy Guevara backstage. So I need to go back and find that account. That might be one to watch. That'd be funny.
Yeah. So the 4-way was absolutely incredible. It looks like they're going to continue and maybe do something at All In, and maybe it's just a triple threat with Cassidy, Sabre Jr., and Shibata.
Okay.
I wouldn't be mad if Zack Sabre Jr. won the AEW International title and took it over to New Japan for a little bit. And I think that's probably the right call. If I was booking it, that's what I would do at All In. Just have those guys in a triple threat. Because, I mean, Cassie has had one hell of a run, so you can easily just ride it away for him, being like, well, I mean, guys get caught. They get tired. It happens.
There was something I saw not too long ago. So there was like AEW's got really big plans for Cassidy. I'm like, okay, cool, but like, let the man have a break too at some point. Like once they do finally take the belt off of him and put it on somebody, like let my man get a couple weeks off.
I mean, he is the epitome of AEW. People have disparagingly called him AEW's mascot, but that's not a negative. Like he is emblematic of what AEW is as a company, which is it's outside the box. And that's what his character is. And that's why it works so well. I think that's why people respond to it. He's one of the most over guys in the company.
He probably sells a lot more merch.
Sure, he sells a shit ton of merch.
A lot of folks on that roster too.
Yeah. And he's a character that can only work in AEW. He would not work in WWE.
Mm-mm.
Eddie Kingston the same way, I think. And that's probably why we'll talk about that in a minute too. It's probably why Eddie Kingston, despite him being off TV for a little bit, shows back up and continues to get huge crowd reactions, because he is a type of character that can only exist in this universe. Eddie Kingston in WWE it would be so watered down that it wouldn't have any kind of the rough edges around it that make him so attractive as a character. So
yeah. So him being back, as I said, I missed most of it being at an actual live event Saturday. So tell me a little bit about the Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club.
It was a great match. The one takeaway that I had, well, two takeaways. Takesha the dude is money. And right now we're just waiting for him to be crowned like the next big thing in wrestling. Like if you told me in 8 months he's going to have the AEW world title, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
Like he showed out that good. And then the other big takeaway is, if you remember, Eddie Kingston and John Moxley, their first feud in AEW, their only feud in AEW against each other, didn't happen in front of a live crowd. It was during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
And when those two guys stepped in the ring with each other at Forbidden Door, the place stood up. And that would just tell me like, oh, there's a money feud. Right there it is.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for, we've talked about this before, who's going to be the next really big baby face in wrestling that kind of, moves the needle in a big way. If it's not Eddie Kingston, I don't really know who it is at this point.
So, I mean, I agree because I love Eddie's character, but I also think that's a lot of like who Eddie is
Yeah.
in real life. Like, I don't know that there's a lot of line being drawn there.
No.
Do you think he genuinely hates Claudio?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Because he's real good at.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how much of this how many lines are being blurred here?
We've talked about this before. Like, the only reason MJF gets to say a lot of the things he says is because he's probably, the nicest dude backstage. And you've kind of seen it slip every now and then, people in interviews. I think I just saw something with Carlito where he was like talking about dudes that he liked, and he really liked what MJF was doing. And then he was like, I don't want to blow up his spot, but like, he's like the nicest dude I've ever met. Like, you don't get to do those things with people if you're not cool with them.
Yeah.
And I would imagine Eddie and Claudio were probably super tight. Because we know John Moxley and Claudio are super tight, right?
Yeah.
And usually when it comes down to like friend groups, you don't really have... Your close friends are not also... Most of the time, they're also close friends with your other friends. Like, you wouldn't have a best friend, and then your best friend be like, well, I fucking hate those other set of friends that you have. It's not really like that for the most part. Maybe it is for people out there. I don't know. That's never been my experience.
Yeah.
Usually everybody is super tight with each other, and there's not a lot of division there.
That makes a lot of sense. I've been meaning to ask you that, like, on the podcast for a while now. And then since he's back, and there was a little bit more on Dynamite last night between them and between Eddie and Mox, and a little bit of a stare down between he and Claudio. Yeah,
and like I said, the Tin Man was fantastic, but that was the two takeaways. And you keep it going because the finish of the match was Ishii pinning Wheeler Yuta, which is like the most non-finish that you can do for that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't give you anything definitive, so you can keep this thing going. They're going to do blood and guts.
Blood and guts, yeah, that's where I was about to say.
And we'll see what they do. We've kind of talked about, did they bring Kota Ibushi in for All In to kind of team with the Elite? But after watching Omega Ospreay, I don't know how you don't do Omega Ospreay 3 at All In. So I don't know what they'll get into here. One thing we talk about too, that I don't think we've mentioned, since Collision has started, CM Punk's come back. We have the outstanding Forbidden Door. There's a buzz that's happening around AEW again. Or like, I don't know if it's necessarily translating to like television ratings, but like in terms of excitement level and just watching the product, it's got a lot of momentum going for it, which is kind of crazy considering we've talked about how over this Roman Reigns Bloodline Civil War is. And yet every time I go online, I'm seeing AEW gifs. I'm seeing like CM Punk doing the Hollywood Hulk Hogan shit at Forbidden Door, which we didn't even talk about. He's full on healing it up at this point, which just makes for great television. Now they have All In where they're going to put 65, 70,000 people in a stadium. There's a lot of momentum behind AEW. Let's see how they capitalize on it. But they got a lot going for them right now.
I know you and I talked a little while back about the possibility of seeing Drew McIntyre there. And the closer it gets to it, I've read some rumblings that they're trying to work it out he's trying to work it out with WWE. So, and they're vice versa. They're trying to work it out and make it work with him. So I don't know if we'll see him there or not, but I mean, you never know.
You never know. Stranger things have happened, but even if he goes to AEW, where does he go?
Yeah.
Where do you put him in?
I do not want to see a Goldberg versus Ryback match. I know that much.
No, I don't want to see that either.
Seen a lot of speculation on Twitter and whatnot about that. I could care less.
No.
So let's talk about Jungle Boy for a little bit. Did you see that coming?
Yes and no. Yes, I saw an inkling of a heel turn. No, I did not think that they do Jungle Boy that dirty, where they just don't give him anything to really turn heel about. And I think this Jungle Boy heel turn stuff is honestly dead in the water. Because if you were going to turn heel, his attack on Hook needs to be way more vicious. He kind of just hit him with a clothesline and pantomime to the crowd and then kind of threw the title down. Like, if you were going to turn Jungle Boy heel, you have to kind of go all the way with it.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, like, he needs to turn on Hook. He needs to continue to beat the shit out of Hook. Taz needs to get up from the commentary desk, run down the ramp, try to stop him. Jungle Boy needs to get up in Taz's face, Jungle Boy needs to take Hook, fucking throw him off the stage or something. Like, something else has to happen. He can't just be it's a half measure. And then his Jungle Boy's promo on Dynamite Wednesday night was just the most cliched stuff ever. And like we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast before, what is the number one trait that we say every single wrestling star has to have? Believability.
Yeah.
They have to be believable in everything they do, everything they say. And every time Jungle Boy gets on that mic, I don't believe a single word that comes out of his mouth. He feels like a guy that's trying to play a wrestler. And it's not going to work.
Yeah, I liked him a lot when AEW first started, and like.
But he was protected.
Yeah,
he was in a tag team.
Yeah,
he didn't do a lot of talking. Now,
I still like him in the ring, but he just doesn't. I don't think he has what it takes.
But it can't. When we've said this before, it can't just be about the moves. It's never just been about the moves. You have to have other things that go with it. And I get that he's young. Can he grow into this? Sure. But like, he gets on that microphone and, I mean, he's healing it up. What does he say? Oh, this is a shit town. I'm banging the hottest girl here. He does a little glasses thing. Like, it feels forced. It feels like a guy that's playing a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he doesn't feel genuine in what he's saying.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And well, I'm afraid what's going to happen is people are just not going to care. So they're not going to boo. They're not going to cheer. They're just going to sit on their hands.
Be indifferent.
And that's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of the Wardlow treatment.
That's the worst. Yeah.
So we've talked about Ospreay and Omega a little bit, but let's get into spend a few minutes with it. We talked about the folks giving it the 3 out of 10 and stuff, but we haven't actually really talked about the match. I texted you a little while ago when I was watching it, and I was like, I've already yelled goddamn 3 different times, and I was maybe 20 minutes into it. Yeah. You told me it would be about 40 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And the third, when I texted you, was when Ospreay did the V trigger on Kenny, and he was like right in front of the fucking camera against the ropes.
Yeah.
And I thought he killed the man.
There is, well, let me say this first. Okay, we know Omega's contract is kind of up in the air, right? 2024, I think it is. He's talked about that he doesn't want to live in America. He wants to get something done with New Japan. If I'm Tony Khan, 2024, I make Will Ospreay the highest paid wrestler of all time. I do not give a shit what it takes. I'm locking him in. I'm locking MJF in. And I have the future of my company for the next decade. And anything else, I'll figure out the rest of it. Right? It's like getting 2 superstars, basketball players. Like, if I get LeBron James and Kevin Durant, I'll figure the rest of it out. You know what I mean? I don't give a shit. I'll get role players. I have those 2 studs. And the rest, I'll just kind of piecemeal together. Will Ospreay, he is unlike anyone that I've ever seen. And I think people still give him shit because if you'll go back, he wasn't this wrestler 3 years ago. Okay, he was, I hate to use this term because it's derogatory. I don't like it, but in lieu of anything better, he was kind of a spot monkey, right? He was doing a lot of acrobatics. This Will Ospreay in 2023 is not that.
Mm-mm.
He's bulkier. His moveset is way more vicious. And he has so much confidence. We talk about this all the time with wrestlers. When the confidence starts coming, that's when shit gets really interesting. Like, and you can go back pick any superstar you want. Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's a moment in his career where the confidence started to come and he fucking took off and became Stone Cold, right? The Rock, same thing. There's a moment when the fucking light switch flips and you go off to another stratosphere. Yeah. That's what Will Ospreay's on right now.
And his cutter is a thing of beauty.
Everything is so crisp. Like we talk about it all the time. Like there are little things like footwork, being in the right spot, the ability to wrestle at that pace and never lag.
I am horrible with names of things, especially when there's 4 flips in the air, right?
Yeah.
But 30 minutes into the match, they're both just bleeding like crazy. Omega's on the ground. Ospreay gets on the top rope, jumps off, does 7,000 flips.
Yeah.
I was like, you're 30 minutes into this motherfucker.
Yeah.
How are you still doing this? I was like, most people couldn't do that 10 minutes into a match.
No.
And he's probably lost a fuck ton of blood, and he's 30 minutes into it.
And just like, so there's the moveset and there's the athleticism. Then there's also just the storytelling part that these two guys nailed. Like if you go back and watch the Wrestle Kingdom match, literally from the start of the bell, they do callbacks to the Wrestle Kingdom match. And it's
the commentators were talking about that too.
Yeah, and it's those little nuggets where you reward people for their viewership and you bring people in. Like, I don't know what they're going to do for this third match because you would have to think there's going to be a third match. We could be witnessing the greatest trilogy of matches that have ever happened in professional wrestling. And to have it be done by these two guys, this is the best match that ever took place inside an AEW ring. And AEW's had a lot of fucking banger matches. And this takes the cake. And honestly, I don't even think it's that close. Like, that's how good this is. And we talked about it on this podcast. I mean, we don't have to go back that far. MJF and Danielson, best Iron Man match we've ever seen. I think Omega Ospreay, better than that. The fucking announce table spot.
Yeah.
Kudos to Kenny Omega for being able to take that. And of course, that's a callback to the Wrestle Kingdom match. Like, everything these guys did, like, this is where, when you have two guys like this who gel and have this much chemistry, this is when wrestling transcends into an art form for me. To where, like, you are just taking on a roller coaster story with two masterful storytellers. And by the end, you're just like, you're euphoric. You're like, what the fuck? I witnessed history. Like, I saw two guys do something that it's going to be tough for anybody to kind of top that. And what's crazy is that, like, I would have to go back and watch the Wrestle Kingdom match again. That might not even be better than the Wrestle Kingdom match that happened back in January. If you talk about match of the year, these two guys are 1 and 2. These matches.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that it's gonna culminate at All In.
It would have to. It has to. It absolutely has to. And yeah, we talked about Omega. People have given him shit too. He just continues to be an innovator in the ring. I mean, you can trace the genetics of, like, the in-ring work of professional wrestling. It starts way back, but let's just take two people. Like, if Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart are like the Larry Bird and Magic Johnson of pro wrestling, like, I don't know what Kenny Omega's is. Like, is he the LeBron James, or is Will Ospreay the LeBron James? Like, I don't know, but, like, it goes, the ancestry tree goes through those fucking guys.
Yeah.
And, like, there's going to be, whoever's the best wrestler in 15 years is going to have a crazy 6-star, 7-star match. And when he or she starts doing interviews, they're going to be like, oh, well, we watched Omega Ospreay, the 2 matches in 2023, and we took influence and inspiration from that.
So what's your take on the whole Tiger Driver 91 thing?
Okay. A lot of people got up in arms. Okay.
Yeah, Twitter was real fun that night.
And I stayed off it because I was like, let me just kind of... I retweeted a couple guys. The GCW announcer, I can't remember his name, who had a very funny tweet. He was like, I just wish wrestlers would start taking suggestions from the fans about what they want to see before they put their matches together. Like, if Omega trusts Ospreay to do that, which he clearly does, and they feel like they need that spot to enhance the story that's being told inside the ring, who the hell are any of us to just be like, oh, well, that's a step too far?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know the history and I know that there is a lot of history around it and this, that, and the other, just from that night. But I wouldn't let just anybody get in the ring and do that, right? I wouldn't let fucking Parker Boudreaux or somebody do it. Like, but that's why you got the two possibly best in the going right now.
Well, and so I saw this. I saw one tweet. It was a series of tweets. A lot of people had this thought, which was like, oh, young wrestlers are going to watch that and they're going to feel like they need to up the ante in their matches and potentially get into dangerous situations, right? I would just say, if you're a young wrestler and you can't tell the difference between two guys embroiled in a blood feud that spans across continents, okay, and they have so much history with each other, and you can't tell the difference between what they're doing and what you're trying to do in any of your matches, you don't have mind enough for the business to be successful in this business anyway. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't get it. And then the other thing is just like, why are we picking on this Tiger Driver move? Like, you mentioned the standing corkscrew press that Ospreay did from the top rope to the outside. Okay, well, what if in that move, God forbid, Ospreay would have slipped and banged his head, right? Knocked himself out. Would we still be having the same conversation as, oh, these guys are doing two dangerous moves? Like, I don't know why, just because on the Tiger Driver, just because, the move calls for you to get dropped on your head. Again, Omega clearly trusts Ospreay enough to do it correctly, or else he wouldn't be doing it in the first place.
Right.
And so it's always weird to me when people try to dictate what artists should and shouldn't do. And I guess that's where I'm coming from. I really do view wrestling and wrestlers as artists. And so much in the same way that, like, I don't think someone should tell a musician, oh, you shouldn't have a lyric like that, or, oh, you shouldn't do this, that, and the other. I would never tell a wrestler that they should or shouldn't do something. Like, it's up to them to make their art. And then it's up for us to kind of judge it. But to try to, like, police this thing after the fact is kind of weird to me.
Yeah. Well, let's segue to Danielson and Okada for a second, because we need to get into Money in the Bank rundown.
Yeah.
Our man's broke his arm.
Unfortunately.
So he's going to be out for a while.
Still tapped out Okada. That was the biggest surprise to me, because I thought, like, Danielson doesn't need a win. And, like, why would New Japan let Okada lose? But Okada being tapped out the way he is just goes to show that, like, oh, this thing's going to keep going. They'll have a second match and probably a third one. Like, Danielson's probably going to be in the Tokyo Dome next year against Okada. That has to be where this goes.
Yeah.
They're not going to let their biggest star in New Japan get tapped out and then never get any kind of retribution. That just won't happen. And so it was surprising. Honestly, Ospreay winning too was a little bit surprising for me. But I kind of get it. Like, Omega had only defended that title once. So, like, Ospreay's back wrestling a full schedule. You want that title back in New Japan. So maybe that was good bargaining chip. Maybe it was like, oh, okay, well, then I want Danielson to win, and we'll let Danielson work the Tokyo Dome, but he's going to win this match here.
Yeah.
Also, for right now, we say this a lot, like, Danielson is the greatest wrestler of all time. For right now, until somebody, be it a Will Ospreay in a couple years or somebody else, like, potentially dethrones him.
Keeps building his resume.
Danielson is the greatest wrestler of all time. We're done with that debate, that discussion. It's over. Like, the ballots have been counted. We have decided that's what it is. There's no debate anymore, so it's pointless to try to debate it. Bryan Danielson right now is the greatest wrestler of all time.
Was it the dude we follow on Twitter, Jeremy Lambert from Fightful? Just every day he says, or every night during the show, imagine thinking Bryan Danielson ain't the GOAT.
Yeah, he's it. And so, like, just know that if you think it's anybody else, you're wrong. It's Danielson, and that's the way it's going to be until somebody comes along. So the ballots have been counted, votes have been cast. Appreciate everybody's participation. Bryan Danielson's the greatest wrestler of all time.
It's hard to argue, but I will probably give you the login info to our TikTok if I post that clip on TikTok, because people will be arguing.
That's fine. They can argue. Lots of people can be wrong, you know. It's not, you can have opinions that are wrong. It's Danielson. It's just, it is what it is. He's the GOAT right now until somebody comes along and puts a resume that's better than him. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to probably switch gears for time wise and get into the Money in the Bank rundown real quick. We got about 15, 20 minutes left. So we know we're getting the Usos versus Roman and Solo, right?
Solo eating a pair of super kicks.
Yeah.
Friday night from his brothers.
Yeah.
Crowd's going to be hyped for this match.
This is a good card, top to bottom.
And it's in London. The UK fans are rabid.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
So, you think Roman and Solo will get that one to advance the story? Advance the story?
I think so. Yeah, that's probably the way it has to go. Probably by some kind of shenanigans. Last time Roman was in the UK, he barely edged out a hometown boy in Drew McIntyre. But remember, that's when Solo debuted.
Yeah.
So I would imagine there's something else that happens here that costs the Usos the win.
Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. You don't think they stripped Seth yet, do they?
Well, why do I get the suspicion that Logan Paul is going to walk out of the O2, the fucking World Heavyweight Champion? Why? I feel that, and I don't want it to happen, but I feel like that's what's going to happen.
So, you think he'll win Money in the Bank then for the dudes, and then cash in tomorrow?
Yeah, I feel like that's what is going to happen. I don't want to be right. I want LA Knight to win Money in the Bank, and I want him to have a long kind of holding that briefcase, kind of teasing Seth, because we both think whoever wins the briefcase is going to cash in on Seth, right? Not Roman. Like Roman's title is safe because it's embroiled in its own little thing.
Because why do you, if wishfully they put it on LA Knight, you put him against Roman, Roman's going to win until next year.
Right.
So you don't want to, that would basically squash LA's run, right?
Yeah.
But do you want him to go ahead and take it off Seth? Because you can put it back on Seth a few months from now.
Yeah.
But I think you might be right, sadly. I'll cry in my bourbon on Saturday if that's the case.
And listen, Logan Paul with the belt could be interesting. It kind of, to me, defeats the purpose of what you said this belt was going to be, which is going to be the quote-unquote the workhorses title. Well, Seth is defending it against everybody on every show.
Yeah, that's where I was about to say is like...
And so just to have something different, you want, to me, you would kind of want this title to be that. You would want the title to kind of get passed around between guys like Seth Rollins and LA Knight and, whoever, and not have it be won by a dude who's a part-timer. Because this was the whole critique against Roman's Universal run, that I thought that this World Heavyweight title was supposed to be an answer to those criticisms. But I just feel like the WWE thing to do is just to fucking have Logan Paul walk out of London with the title after he successfully cashes in.
It seems like a very Vince thing to do.
And we've heard reports that Vince has gotten more and more his hands back into the creative. I don't know. I don't want it to be true. But if I was a betting man, I wouldn't put a lot of money, but like a $10, something like that. I'd put that on Logan Paul.
Yeah, breaks my heart a little bit. So just real quick, because we don't have a ton of time to spend. If they put it on Logan, then what do we do to keep trying to push LA Knight?
There's the United States title.
I was going to say, do you maybe have him go against Theory, or maybe he would be the one to take down Gunther?
Could be. Well, LA Knight is on SmackDown. Yeah. I think. So it
doesn't matter at this point. They're not doing the brand split.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I was like, oh yeah, they're halfway following that shit anyway.
Yeah, it's made it a few weeks, and no, it didn't even make it that long. Then they had fucking AJ on Raw. Yeah. And then it's been bonkers ever since.
I was trying to think about who LA Knight's run has kind of reminded me of, because LA Knight's a little bit an older dude, has really sort of come out of nowhere these last few months. It reminds me a lot of, and I don't think you were watching wrestling this time, Mr. Kennedy.
No, I don't.
When he was on SmackDown, and he was the guy that had the mic that came down, and he said, Mr. Kennedy was my shit when I was like 14, 15, right? He was kind of primed to be the next dude, was going to win Money in the Bank, was going to cash in on The Undertaker and win the world title. He ends up getting hurt. Then he ends up getting popped for steroids, and his run just kind of evaporates just like that. Gets some heat backstage. LA Knight reminds me a lot of that. I think LA Knight is not kind of the nutcase that Mr. Kennedy was, So is there something where WWE maybe learns from their past mistakes and says, look, we can't explain what's happening with this LA Knight and why he's as over as what he is, but the people are demanding it. And let's try to strike while the iron's hot. And we'll kind of like just, he wins, we give him Money in the Bank, and then he doesn't have to cash in right away. We want him to kind of hold it, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, because you can let him carry around the briefcase for a few months.
Yeah.
Until you figure it out.
And stop trying to make him a fucking heel. It ain't working.
Yeah.
The people do not want to boo him. And they won't. They're not going to. So go in the other direction.
There's somebody on TikTok that is kind of my hero right now that is inserting him into songs.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
And the one I saw today was very obvious. It was Usher. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would get to the chorus and it's just LA Knight going, yeah.
Yeah. Look, sometimes you can't explain these things. And the great thing about wrestling is you get real-time feedback from the audience. They're telling you they want something. Sometimes it's good to delay their gratification, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
So we'll see what WWE decides to do.
What do you think about the women's Money in the Bank match?
I mean, it has to be Becky, right?
I don't think there's any other way.
It has to be.
She was the clear standout in the ring with all of them the other night.
Yeah.
And she didn't say a fucking thing.
Yeah. I would like a Trish Stratus to win it, because I don't think you're done telling that story necessarily.
Yeah.
The problem is, who do they go up against? Rhea Ripley. Like, if Trish wins, you're not going to do Trish and Rhea. You probably do Becky and Rhea if Becky wins, and Becky could probably eat that loss. Similar to a way like John Cena won Money in the Bank, and he had an unsuccessful cash in that one time. Because he refused to, like John Cena, I think it was at WrestleMania, he's like, I'm cashing in. He didn't do the like, after you've had a match, I'm going to run down and, you take advantage of the situation. Nah, because he was a stand-up heel. I could see Becky Lynch doing something similar, where she wins Money in the Bank, and at the end of Rhea's match, does Rhea have a match at Money in the Bank? No. Or I could see the next Monday Down on Raw, her being like, Becky's like, I'm going to cash in, and I'm going to cash in at this point.
Because they did have her and Rhea run into each other backstage.
Backstage, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not Becky, I
don't think you pull the title off Rhea yet either, because she's got so much goddamn clout right now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So, again, we'll see what happens there.
I mean, I love Becky. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Cody versus Dom. I'm guessing that's your favorite match of the day, right?
I mean, we have to see Brock Lesnar pop up and interfere in this match, just so that Dominic can get a win. You can protect Cody, because I just want Dominic to come out with a shirt on Monday Night Raw that just says, I beat Cody. And that's all he says for the next 3 months as Cody and Brock are doing their thing.
Yeah.
And every time the crowd just boos him and he just kind of stands there, he can just yell on the mic, I beat Cody. I beat Cody. And just, because then at some point Cody can get his win back and it's not a problem. But Dom needs this win. And again, I know I say it on every podcast, the fucking run that Dominic has been on, the glow up that this man has had from last year, middle of last year to now, where he's going up against WWE's Golden Boy in a big time pay-per-view. It's just, it's so cool to watch. I tweeted about this when it came to the guns too. If you'll look at our Twitter page for listeners, I just love seeing people figure it out
when it starts to click
and get better. Yeah. It's happening right now in AEW with the guns, and it continues to happen with Dominic. He gets better week in and week out. So it's fascinating to me. I love to see it. And yeah, I'm pulling for old Dominic come Saturday or Saturday, Sunday. When is it?
Saturday.
Damn, they're going head to head with Collision. Oh, it's in the afternoon, right?
Yeah. Because it's in London. So
yeah.
So next up, Gunther versus Matt Riddle for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't see Riddle taking it off Gunther.
I don't either. And I know we said we weren't going to get in Monday Night Raw, but Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's backstage segment with Gunther was just hilarious. Where Kevin was like, "Why are we here?" Sammy's like, "What they did to Matt Riddle." He goes, "I don't care what they did to Matt Riddle." And Sammy was like, "No, we do care." And Kevin, "We care. We care. How could you do that? How could you?" Kevin Owens continues to be the most entertaining guy on television every week. But yeah,
I need a KO shirt. I think that's the next shirt I need. Is
bro, I got like 4 of them. I've been getting KO shirts since KO shirts have been a thing in WWE. So
I haven't bought a wrestling shirt in a while. The next wrestling shirt I buy is going to be a New South Pro Wrestling shirt, but I want a KO shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, they come in only one color, and that's black, because they're a wrestling shirt.
Bro,
and every wrestling shirt comes in black.
Have you taken a look in my closet?
Can wrestling shirts just be better? I know I don't want to get off on another tangent, but like wrestling shirts the material sucks. Okay. And for the most part, they're just black and boring.
I've got a white Orange Cassidy shirt.
My favorite, I have a Kurt Angle from, I think, a website called Homage. And it's like baby blue with like a drawn Kurt Angle. And you've seen me wear it before. Yeah. It's my favorite shirt. But yeah, more like that.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to do like bright. Well, that's Hulk Hogan's thing. What's a color that no one's ever done before in wrestling? This would be a good TikTok cutout.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Pink and purple is the Hitman. Bret the Hitman.
Yeah.
Red and yellow, obviously the Hulkster. Blue. Glacier is fucking Glacier from WCW. Is that the only blue one?
We need probably a lot of blue ones. Probably.
Yeah. We need another. What's the next big wrestling color somebody needs to do? And if we figure it out, if you're a wrestler out there listening to this, you can have it for free.
That's a good question. That's a real good question.
I mean, nobody's really got over white that much.
I see a lot of those purple and yellow Macho Man shirts.
Yeah, Macho Man had all the colors.
Yeah, but that's true.
But yeah, the purple one is, the famous Macho one.
Yeah. I don't know. Y'all holler at us if you figure it out.
Has anybody ever done orange?
Orange Cassidy's got orange shirts right now. With his
he didn't have orange ring gear. He's got...
Yeah, that's true.
He's denim.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's gotten over a fabric.
Yeah. Yeah, his newest shirt, I think, is an orange shirt with like the little stick drawing of him or whatever outline. We got one more match. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler in what is probably the most uneventful match of the day. Because I hate Ronda Rousey versus Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's not a lot of meat on this bone. I don't really care. I think Raquel has a lot of potential. The money for Ronda is in a Shayna Baszler feud, which you would have to think this is probably where it's headed.
Yeah,
a breakup for them, and they go against each other. I like Liv Morgan a lot too. It's just kind of. They've kind of bounced around what they do with her, and her pairing with Raquel is a little bit weird, but it's cool to see her back. She was off TV for a little bit, but yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah.
They can't all be cowboys.
They can't all be cowboys. Put this one near the top of the show, get it over with, and because we know it's gonna be Ronda and Shayna.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the rest of the card I'm excited about. I think it's going to be fun.
And just the fact that they're in London. I mean, there's nothing like UK crowds for anything. I love when WWE goes to other places because it's just, those people don't get a lot of the big events over there, and they're so grateful, and they, for 4+ hours, they are on their feet screaming and yelling.
So when is SummerSlam? Is SummerSlam August?
Mm-hmm. And it's in Detroit.
Oh.
Motor City.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they'll start building up to that.
And then once we're past SummerSlam, fucking Royal Rumble is going to be right around the corner.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yep.
Well, y'all, we appreciate it. Holler at us on Twitter and Instagram at Alabama Slam Pod. We have a TikTok now, too. I've been trying to take some segments out of the podcast and put them on there and maybe pick up some new followers.
Yeah.
At Alabama Slam Pod. On all those, and then search the Alabama Slam podcast on Facebook. And then also we've got a network of other folks doing a bunch of other podcasts at the Alabama Take, which is thealabamatake.com. It's at the Alabama Take on all social medias. We've got Pop Culture Podcast, Taking It Down, Taking on Sports, Check Your Shelf, a monthly book podcast. This Song Sucks, which is pretty obvious what that one's about. And then there's a Star Wars podcast that we are resurrecting very soon with me and a couple of buddies. yeah, we'd appreciate any follows and likes and all that bullshit. And you can get a t-shirt if you want an Alabama Slam t-shirt. Just go to tpublic.com and search Alabama Slam podcast and you should find us. It's a pretty standout logo there. It's easy to find. So you got any parting thoughts?
Happy 4th of July for everybody.
Go America.
That's coming up. Go America.
And roll tide.
And roll tide. I'm going to be like Lex Luger this weekend. We're just some American flagged out. Were you ever a kid? Did you have American flag like t-shirts that your mom had to go to the Old Navy? You know what I'm talking about? Those Old Navy American flag t-shirts. Somebody out there listening.
Old
knows
Navy
what I'm
wasn't
talking
a thing in the 80s when I was a kid.
Oh, I forgot you're
If
old.
it was, they weren't around Florence, Alabama.
Oh.
Buddy, we went to the Castronaut and the Parisians back then.
I don't even know what those... You just spoke a foreign language there for just a little bit. I don't even know what those two stores are.
Yeah.
But no, for like 90s kids or early 2000s kids, Old Navy every single year would drop like a brand new 4th of July shirt. And like every mom in Russellville had to go get one for their kid. And like you would show up to the 4th of July cookout and all the fucking 12-year-olds had the same shirt on. And it's just, that's what it was.
That wasn't me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we didn't have those. We had, you go there or... Those were what stores that eventually became like Belk at the mall.
Okay.
They took those spots, you know, just
Gotcha.
run of the mill clothes,
Yeah.
nothing fancy.
So I'm doing hamburgers and hot dogs this weekend.
Yeah.
Got a 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
Because if July 4th is on a Tuesday, you should take the Monday off too.
Yeah.
And if your boss makes you come in on Monday, tell him he's an un-American piece of shit and you're not going to do it.
George Washington said so.
Yeah. Washington said if 4th of July is on a Tuesday, you should get the Monday off as well.
Yeah.
That's in the Constitution.
It is. I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate y'all. And give us a holler on Twitter if you got any questions you want us to answer. We'd be glad to shout it out on the podcast. And share us with your friends if you haven't already. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Later, guys.